a couple people helped me decorate, but no one else helped with any of the decorations, like making them, or anything like that. I did all of that. I bought all those materials, all for them to just rip it down Friday after I left for work. And they just like threw it into an office. There was no organization or care or respect taken. When I came in on Monday, I was so pissed off. Like, the plan was to clean it up on Monday. So I had prepared with boxes and lists of how I wanted everything to be packed away. And, I came with all that stuff on Monday. But they had waited until I left on Friday and then spent all of 5 minutes ripping it all down and just destroying all of my work. I felt so disrespected. So disrespected. That was 6 months of my own time. Not to mention the money that was spent on it. All torn down in just 5 minutes. I never did anything like that again. I helped out with the food drive every year. And I volunteered my time and my gas driving around collecting food for the mailmen on food drive day. And, I did all of these things that I didn't have to do. I did all of these things to prove that I was worth more. That I was a good employee. That I was worth being promoted and, in turn given more money. But instead, it just became expected of me. It just became expected of me to work this hard and to do this. And that was supposed to be the norm. But no one else did anything like that. No one else worked that hard. No one else put that much effort into extracurricular things. I tried to explain why I deserved more. I even begged for more responsibilities. I went crying to my boss numerous times, justifying every dollar I spent, every, minute of my day. I was door dashing and cleaning on the side just, so I could eat, and put gas in my car, because there were times, plenty of times, that I couldn't eat dinner or have lunch money for the next day, unless I door dashed for 2 or 3 hours after work, because just, paying my regular average bills was enough to overdraw me. I even asked if I could come in and clean on the weekends, because we had fired our cleaning crew during COVID, and no one else was really helping to keep it up. Me and one other person did a majority of the cleaning. And I really could have used that extra money. And I wasn't even talking a lot of money. I was, $25 an hour was what I'd asked for to clean. And I know that sounds like a lot, but when you think about everything that you can get done in an hour, it's worth far more than $25. And we were literally talking an extra $50 to $75 a week for me to come in on Saturdays and really clean the place. But I was told no. I asked multiple times over the course of a year, but I was still told no. I was told that it was everyone's responsibility to keep up with the cleaning. I argued that no one else helped except for one person, and that we could eliminate all of that, if I just came in on the weekend and cleaned up myself, but I was still told no. But then, the boss's daughter-in-law wanted a new double wide, even though she had a very nice home already. And she needed the employee loan rate of 3%. So guess what? She was hired to clean. That moment broke something in me. Okay? I was pissed. and hurt, not to mention, right? Like, I realized at that moment that no matter how hard I worked, no matter how important I thought I was, no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough. I wasn't part of the family, right? Therefore, my needs didn't matter. My needs didn't matter. For 11 years, I watched other people get praised and make more money for doing less work and being less nice to people. You know, people would watch movies on their phone, play games, listen to audiobooks. They would decorate their office. They would do all kinds of things. Now, I'm not saying that I constantly worked. I didn't. I goofed off. But I still always got my work done. And a lot of times other people's work too. And I never turned down a member. So, like, I wasn't allowed to pass them off to someone else like everyone else was. I got scolded for that. And eventually I got sick of it. So I started slacking off in other areas. You know, if I wasn't going to get extra pay or compensation for my extra work, then I wasn't going to do anymore. Like, why should I? I mean, this might be sharing too much, but my last year there, I only made $35,000. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? I mean, who can live on that? Who can live on that? $35,000. The year before that, in 2024, I only made $30,000. And, you know, when you're doing it alone, that's just not enough. It's just not enough. You know, especially when I'm doing loans for other credit union employees that work at other institutions and doing the same exact job that I'm doing, and they're making twice the money. I was fixing mistakes of people who were in certain positions that they didn't necessarily deserve and they weren't smart enough to be in. You know, and I was drowning, like, and silently resenting everyone around me because, you know, I'm drowning and nobody else gives a fuck. And I'm having to clean up their mess, and like this is ridiculous. Like, I'm just being shit on all the time. And, you know, my whole life I've been expected to just barely survive and be okay with it. You know, if I wanted something extra, I needed to answer the question of why. What did I need it for? You know, if I wanted extra money, why? What do you need money for? Well, because I need money. Like, it's the same reason that everybody else needs money. Then my life started reflecting exactly how I felt. Okay, my house started falling apart. Not that it was fantastic to begin with, but the garage floods all the time. Whether it's from rain, from the back wall, or from the bathroom above that's leaking. The dishwasher is broken. Oven button stopped working. So I can only use the oven at 350 unless I pull the oven out and unplug it to reset it, which is very hard to do by myself. My refrigerator went out, and this is my new set, like, that we bought as a bundle just a few years ago, that I actually paid off with the refinance. Thankfully, I got the warranty on the fridge when we bought it, and that saved my ass. But I didn't get one on the washer or dishwasher or the oven because I couldn't afford the extra amount it was going to add to my payment. My sink's clogged. I have termites. I have electrical issues. There's mold in the basement, you know, which is where my bedroom is. And there's mold in both bathrooms. You know, the whole upstairs bathroom needs gutted. The wall next to the shower is rotting out. You know, there's mold all over it, soft spots in the floor. Our exhaust fan doesn't work, and it gets extremely hot in that brick house in the summer, even with the air running full blast. Almost every time I use the dryer, it flips a breaker. my foundation shifting, you know, like everything was breaking. And I didn't have the money to fix any of it. You know, my bank account, overdrawn constantly. You know, paycheck after paycheck. It was gone before it even hit. Like, just imagine looking at your bank account 3 days before payday and seeing negative $200 or $300 or even $400. So that when I got paid, that had to be taken care of first. That was automatic, right? So then I was only left with a couple $100 for the next 2 weeks. So then I would be overdrawn again and eating a $30 fee every time. And since I had to refinance the house in order to get divorced, I now owe $114,000 on this piece of shit that's falling apart. Okay? 2 whole months after we broke up, my car broke down. And it was going to cost me more to fix it than what it was worth. I went crying to my boss, not knowing what I was going to do. And she convinced me that I could afford a newer car. So I spent $28,000 on a 22 Ford Escape with 8,000 miles. And I love my car, don't get me wrong. It's the nicest and newest thing I'll probably ever own. But I couldn't afford it. And then my body really started to finally give up, you know. I've always had some medical issues. But as the older I get, the more stress I'm under, the more anxiety I'm under, the worse it gets, right? So the stress and the anxiety, the years of carrying everything, just it finally caught up to me. You know, like I said, I'm not a super healthy person. I have a lot of autoimmune things going on. I have 2 types of neuropathy and psoriatic arthritis. I have scalp psoriasis, muscular deterioration, nerve deterioration, degenerative discs. I have severe asthma. I have HS, Hashimoto's thyroid disease. I've got nodules in my lungs, my thyroid, my breast, and my brain. And then I have a general anxiety disorder and a panic disorder on top of PTSD. And the stress of my life was exacerbating all of my symptoms. You know, I would go home crying most nights because I was just so overwhelmed. And then I would just hurt so bad. And, you know, I finally realized that this just isn't sustainable. So I left work. I applied for disability, and then I filed for bankruptcy. You know, and it's not because I didn't want to work, but because my body couldn't keep paying for a life that was never built for me. You know, and I just